Well, let's get started with our first panel for the day. Social media, a game changer and transformer. That's something we are all quite familiar with, especially if you're a Malaysian. You know what happened in 2008, the general elections, and how social media was a game changer then. And to many businesses till today, social media is a game changer because they sell their products exclusively on Facebook to a large extent. And let's take a quick look at who we have on the panel. We've got Rachna Joka, the Regional Director, Digital Director of Maxis Singapore. We also have Ms. Kunila Kyo from Cambodia. And we have, once again, Jason Cruz from MRM Worldwide Philippines. Moderating this session will be the producer and broadcast journalist at Astro Awani Malaysia, Cherish Liao. So can I invite Ms. Cherish to usher her speakers to the stage.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning. Thank you for beating the traffic and then getting up so early and joining us for this morning's session. So as our dear MC he mentioned earlier, this session is about social media as a game changer and transformer. So before we start, right, I would like to first invite our panelists to personally define what and how do you see social media as a game changer and transformer. Probably we can start with Jason, the only gentleman in the panelists this morning.
Wow, pressure. First thing in the morning, I'm asked to speak. Social media, how I define social media as a game changer for businesses.
It can be from your personal experience or for businesses based on the case studies that you already have handled in the past or managed in the past.
I think, well, I'm speaking from a perspective from the Philippines. It's one of those things where every brand just wants to be in, but a lot of them don't know what they're doing. So as a game changer, I would say that social media is a new territory that a lot of brands and companies want to be involved in. Of course, there's this big steps of learning, but it's revolutionizing a lot of ways business is being done in the Philippines. For example, we have some really big brands that develop a lot of the popular apps. It's actually the brands who fund a lot of app development because they are using the apps to make sales, to create brand awareness and brand affinity. So I think that in itself, big brands funding development, that's a game-changing feature for me.
What about Rachna then?
For me personally, social media, and this is personal, but I think social media changed the game many years ago. It's a way of living today. All of us in the room are on Facebook, on Twitters. In fact, yesterday somebody asked me for my Twitter handle, and I said, oh, I'm not big on Twitter, probably the wrong thing to say in a social media forum, but literally the 6 people sitting on the table frowned on me and were judging me sitting there, saying, oh, you're not on Twitter? So I went back to my room and quickly made sure my profile was good enough for everybody to see, and now I will be on Twitter. But it's really a way of living. We have 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds on Facebook. There are more than 1 million 12-year-olds on Facebook today. And I think for brands, like in India, for example, we have brands like Universal and Eros who came onto YouTube and started renting out their movies online. This was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. So today when Facebook does it, it's not a game changer. E-commerce on a social platform was happening 5 years ago. So for me, really, it's a way of living.
Mm-hmm. And what about you?
Well, first let me introduce myself. I've been working as a journalist for 6 years and was trained in traditional media. So when social media came to Cambodia like a few years back, it sort of changed how I report news and how news is consumed by a lot of Cambodians. So it sort of changed me 360 degrees all of a sudden. Actually, journalists in my country have to work really hard to sort of change themselves into the multimedia platform or social media platform. So it's actually a revolution in Cambodia, and the infrastructure in Cambodia is limited. And I feel that my country sort of jumped the curve because infrastructure is not there, but 5 years ago, infrastructure was not there, quite limited. But 5 years later, things change. Kids have smartphones, use iPads. The father and mother with newspaper in the hand, and the kids play with iPads and iPhones.
Okay, because just now, Jason, you mentioned about app development, you mentioned about funding, and that brought me to look at app economy because I want to tie it up together with how internet and social media can really drive probably more and more app developers to leverage on this platform to push their content, saying that we have the talent, we have the skill, we build this app, so how can we bring our product to the next level? Normally, let's say today I come to you with my own app. How would you help me to brand it and then push it out to the target audience, let's say in the emerging markets or Philippines as market?
App development. I think, well, the Philippines generally, generally speaking, I'd like to say that is a very creative and very innovative country. There is a lot of intelligent people there. A lot of them are US educated. And when they come back to the country, they do bring back a lot of this knowledge back home. And the thing is, getting funding is really hard. So a lot of startups, when they create apps, when they create websites, when they create anything tech-based, a lot of them get funding from Singapore. So thank God for Singapore. But locally, it's actually the big brands that are helping fund these small shops. So what a lot of app developers, from my experience, would do is they would get a couple of friends, maybe 3 or 4 of them, and then they incorporate some name. And then these are brilliant kids. And then they develop an app and then they try to push this to brands. Or the second scenario that's very popular is a lot of brands are going for apps. For some reason, we have an app craze there.
Yeah.
And the biggest Facebook page in the country has one of the most successful apps. Can I just share the story?
Sure.
It's actually one of our clients, Nescafe. Anyone familiar with Nescafe? Well, that's good to know. So Nescafe's app called the Nescafe Kapihan Points. It's a reward system whereby if you interact with the app, for example, you get your daily news via the app, or you share something with friends, you get instant rewards. And what big brands like that do is they actually tell developers what they need as an app. They explain the requirements and the necessary objectives of whatever project they're doing, and then they create the app. It's actually difficult to say that developers just think up of an app and then sell it to a brand. Otherwise, if it's not going to fit what the brand's objectives are, then it's not. No one's going to be buying it, and you just wasted a lot of money developing it.
If we want to look at brand engagement side, right? We can still look at use app economy as an example, as a case study. But then, what are the kind of opportunities or challenges if we want to engage as a brand perspective or as a product developer perspective? We want to engage with our consumers or probably some of the clients that may use, just like B2B, right? So that may use our product. What are some of the case studies that you think that we can share today with our audiences? Or
I think a lot of us, and I come from a media agency background, so my normal day looks like I go to clients and I tell them they should be on social. They should spend money on social, they should spend money on display media and all of that. A lot of my clients come to me and say, I want to develop an app. And a lot of brands go wrong because they just want to do it because everybody else is doing it. Because a Nescafe is doing it, that's why somebody else wants to do it. But then there are brands who've done it really well. And again, thanks to some really, really intelligent coders in Philippines, we use them quite a bit. And I'm based in Singapore, but we use a lot of people from Philippines to create apps for our brands. So Singapore brands have the funding, but they don't really necessarily have the skill set to do that. not generalizing, but it's more available in
trend that you
Philippines,
see.
for example.
Okay.
And it's great. There's some really, really smart kids who are sitting there in their garages, literally, and creating these apps for us. And I believe if the app is relevant for the brand, it absolutely makes sense. But then there is also brands need to embrace the longevity of the app. It will die down at some point in time. How do we keep the interest going and things like that? So I think if a brand plans from end to end, that's a case well done. For example, for one of our clients in Australia, hotels.com, we created an e-commerce platform on Facebook, which was an app. It's fantastic because it allows people to go onto their Facebook page, and it's not a new thing, but it was done a few years ago, so it was pretty new then. But it allows people to go on, check their flights, book hotels, and do all of that and share it with their friends, their holidays, and all of that. That's an app well done. So, yeah.
I think just now you already mentioned several points. Social media, you say Facebook, and then you bring in travel industry a little bit,
Yes.
about hotels and then booking flights. So in such a way that social media, when we talk about how it transformed the industries of various industries, it involves a lot of traditional industries. And next, I will also look at journalism, because your background in journalism. So how has social media in Cambodia especially changed or transformed the storytelling and traditional media industry?
Well, in Cambodia, for example, actually I do some reporting in Cambodia and in other countries in the region like Vietnam and Myanmar. I can see that now traditional media are pressured to go online. And to use social media platform in order to distribute the stories. And journalists are even pressured to do multitask. That is, if they, for example, if they report on a story, it's very important that they tweet and Facebook the process of doing the reporting. Because the editor-in-chief encourages them to do so, and their peers want to know what they're doing. And journalists have their own community, best fans. So they actually, for example, when they do story, they need some information. They need contact details of other sources they want to interview. So people on Facebook and Twitter are the best people they can go to for information. So for example, like me, whenever I do a story, I use Twitter and Facebook to find information, even to interview people. And it's even easier for me when I travel to another country and want to do an interview. I can just tweet on Twitter or use Facebook in order to get the information that I want for my story. So, but still, some traditional media in Cambodia, for example, or even in Myanmar, are still skeptical about social media because they don't know what to do. They don't know what to expect out of that. And in Vietnam, for example, Facebook is banned. So it's and in these three countries, the regulations are still a barrier for social media to grow because, for example, the Cambodian government is looking to regulate social media and the internet, and I don't know how they're going to do that. Traditional media has actually been pressured to embrace social media, to take on this in order to survive, because they cannot survive with just paper. They cannot. So they need social media. And on social media nowadays, you read news that your friends recommended to you. Yeah. You rarely go to the websites and read. Now you read most of the stories shared on your Facebook wall, the news feed, or on Twitter. Yeah.
Because just I would like to follow up from that, because there are some case studies that I would like to share also, because from my background, come from TV production, so occasionally I get to engage with certain guests and speakers. So there is this case where journalists, one of them is a journalist from The Guardian, the other one is a citizen journalist. So what happened is they not just use social media, they also at the same time do their own documentary. And what happens is one of the journalists from The Guardian, his name is Paul Lewis. So what he did was he used his Twitter account, and during British riots especially, so he went on the ground and he tweeted. So what is happening at certain street right now, or which street is the place that I should go right now that can help with my report so that I can bring the news to the wider audiences. So immediately he got feedback from there. So this is how journalism has been transformed. And then from the other case study would be, his name is Harry Fear. So he went to Gaza, so he want to tell the story about Palestinians, what is the lifestyle there, and then what is the guidelines that if you want to get into Gaza. He have it all on the website. He used it comprehensively. He even used Google Maps, geotagging, and he utilized YouTube really nicely, and also at the same time he used Facebook and Twitter. There's one line that I would like to quote him, is that I asked him, how can we make citizen journalism work? How can we bring out the concept to the wider younger generations that you too can tell a story by using the smart device in your hands or even the iPad in your hands right now? What he said is, well, what I'm doing is I'm giving a world tour and I'm trying to make it sexy. So if I make it sexy, saying that you can do it too, then probably some younger people would have in mind that he can do it too. So that's just a little bit of story I would like to tie up with from what you mentioned earlier, right? Okay, so back to social, back to Jason, and would like to address this question. There are a lot of products nowadays. We look at web products and internet kind of products, right? They implement and integrate social into their, as one of the main elements. But whether or not social works and complements well with that product, whether or not the audience would need that kind of social elements. For example, the other day we saw one presentation where it's a mapping service, and then it's locally produced, locally developed. What they're thinking is they integrate social where you would be able to know where your friends are at a certain time. But when we compare it with a product like Waze, you get crowdsourced kind of information. Where is the traffic jam right now in this certain area? You chat in, then you help one another. That, we think, in comparison, that kind of social might work. But I'm not sure whether you would agree with me because it's just a personal opinion. So what do you think about this? Whether or not social applies to every product or brand, or whether or not you just put in social?
I think that's a very good question. I think we all need to realize what I'll share. As I said earlier, every brand seems to be want to be on social media. We did a survey for 2012, or 2011, 2012 in the Philippines, and we found out that maybe 2/3 or slightly more than 2/3 of brands are seen as more respected if they're on social media. Now, what does that mean? It puts a lot of pressure on brands and companies to be on social media, even if they have no idea what the heck they're doing. So a lot of brands with a lot of different kinds of products, they think that just to be on social is enough, yeah? But then there are some businesses which won't really benefit so much from being on social media. Take, for example, one of the brands I'm handling is a facial wash brand. Okay, let that sink for a minute. A facial wash brand. What kind of business will you make from many likes on a photo from a facial wash, right? It might create brand awareness and brand affinity, but at the end of the day, it's so hard to actually measure, am I actually getting my clients profits if they get 1,000 likes per post? Some brands, I really think personally, they don't need to be as active, or they need to have a different set of metrics when it comes to social. For example, real estate. A lot of real estate companies in the Philippines want to be on Facebook, they want to be on Twitter, they want to be on social. Now, would you rather have these people who are your potential clients to be on Facebook, checking out your company, or do you want them in your physical showrooms? Right? Where do you want them? For example, a brand like Coke, maybe it would help if you want them to be on Facebook, chit-chatting, because the concept of Coke is conversations, right? Conversations during meal times, conversations with your family, with your friends. So it's a natural extension. And so that's an example of a brand that is doing well now on social media. Coffee does well on social, because when you sit down and have coffee, what do? You check your Twitter, you check your Facebook. The natural things we do. But for companies who like shampoo or soap, I mean, maybe different metrics would need to be implemented. Otherwise, what does 100 retweets about the newest feature of your shampoo does for the business, really? What, really, right?
Okay.
Sorry, just coming from a media perspective, because again, like I said, I work for a media agency. For me, my job means I go to my clients and I tell them to be on social because that makes sense. So my client L'Oreal, who is literally selling shampoos and face washes among 100 other things, I have to tell them what they should be doing on Facebook or what they should be, how they can get 100 likes on the newest features of the shampoo or the face wash, literally. But I think to your point, it's right. It's not about likes. It's not about followers every single time. It's about defining what metrics make sense for you. So for a L'Oreal who's selling a shampoo or a face wash, it's not about Facebook is not really their social space that we recommend, but instead going into and listening to what my customers are talking about me or what the bloggers are talking about me, the opinion leaders, the influencers in the social space are talking about me. And if somebody there is saying that, oh, a Pantene is better than a L'Oreal, for example, or vice versa, and the reasons for it, I can pick up on those and use it for my copies in my other advertising space. So sometimes it's about using the social space intelligently. It's not, and defining the right metrics, the right KPIs for the respective brand. It's not always about conversations. It's not always about likes.
I'll just build on that. As I said earlier, right? Yeah, ours is cream silk.
I'll be competition.
Yes. So there's nothing wrong, I think, with brands. Every brand in the world being on social media, but they just have to do it right. And just not an in-house marketing guy that they ask to attend a 1-hour workshop and give him the entire 1-year social campaign. It happens a lot in the Philippines, and you see a lot of violations happening, and then they get a lot of complaints from consumers because it's not their fault. It's the awareness, I guess, to do things right, properly. It's social, it's trendy, we gotta be on it. Whatever happens. We have a term in Filipino. I'd like to teach it to all of you. It's bahala na. So, with me, bahala na. It means whatever happens, happens. So like, hey, what's for lunch? Bahala. Oh no, where are we going for lunch? Bahala na. What are we presenting today? Bahala na. What's the next question? Bahala na.
Well, the next question, because I would like to, for this session, I would like to touch on as many aspects and as many industries as possible. But now I would like to talk a little bit or look a little bit at education. Okay, so how has, in probably any one of you can take the question first, how has social media helped the younger generation access to knowledge in both the urban area and rural area, probably from your perspective, from Cambodia, from Singapore or India, and then from Philippines? Would you like to start first, Ringa?
Sure. Okay. So how has social media changed
Or transform education?
transform education? So let me give you some background information about the internet penetration in Cambodia. So the total population is 15 million, 1-5. It's really small, but the market is potential and untapped. These days, the internet speed in Cambodia alone is really fast, and some people I know say that it's even faster than in neighboring countries, which is very interesting.
You said Bangkok.
Vietnam. But for the past 3 years, the market has been driven by investments from countries like Vietnam and Thailand. So the internet has been considered like very, very cheap in Cambodia. So, for example, you get out of the airport and you can find SIM cards sold for $1 or $2, and you can get 3G on your phone right away. There is in Cambodia right now. Yeah, and so we wonder, like, what? The infrastructure is not there, but why? Why this? All of a sudden, young Cambodians flash off their mobile phones, their iPhones, their smartphones in front of each other. Like, why so suddenly? And I'm looking at both the urban youth and the rural youth. They have been educated, but the literacy rate in Cambodia is not really high, but this thing is really high in Cambodia, and the mobile subscriptions Cambodia are more than 100%. So young people access news and consume social media through mobile phones more than through PCs or other devices. Yeah, so it's really big. And so nowadays, whenever they do something, they share. They check into any place they go to. They share information, even they share videos. So I can present interesting cases in Cambodia. At the moment, a lot of people have problems with traffic police. So what do? They actually take videos of any wrongdoing in public and they post it on Facebook. Oh my God, like minutes later, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 of shares. And even in one case, one policeman saw himself on Facebook. He was terrified. And then he filed a complaint against that Facebooker. These days, you cannot hide anything on social media. You cannot hide anything because people have the power to do this, to hold you responsible for what you do. Yeah? And social media for education. So in some classrooms in Cambodia, teachers encourage students to use Facebook to interact with their friends, with their classmates, and then exchange ideas
And notes.
Yes, and notes. Yeah, that's what's happening in Cambodia right now.
If, for Rajna, I would like to reshape the question a little bit. Have you seen any brands or companies that they want to integrate a little bit of probably gamification, education kind of elements into their product or services and then push it out to the public and in mass?
All of them.
All of them? Really? Okay.
I think for a lot of my brands, and I mean, we started this discussion saying everybody wants to be on Facebook, but for a lot of my brands, I kind of look after some very young brands, so like Jetstar, Red Bull, L'Oreal, which has Maybelline, and for all of them, their target audience is the younger generation, the younger audience. So for everybody, they all want to be